Update. I found out my sister slept with my fiancé and I'm not sorry about what I did after. Original post. 30-year-old woman here. I have a sister who's just a year older than me. We've always had such a good relationship, so fighting about this one hurt. She might as well have just stabbed me in my heart. On top of that, I've been with my fiancé since high school, and we've always been with each other through thick and thin. We were going to get married in a few months. I have no idea why on earth they did this to me. What's even worse was that our mom knew, and out of fear of getting involved, my sister apparently begged her not to say a word. She didn't tell me anything. Thankfully, my dad wasn't having it and he spilled the beans to me. I've never been so angry in my life. Not only did I kick my fiancé out and throw out his stuff, some of it in the trash, but I decided to hurt my sister in another way. Why not do the same for my fiancé? Simple. She's my sister. We've always had a good relationship until she decided to ruin it months before my big day, which I allowed her to be a bridesmaid in. You don't do that to anyone, let alone your sister. Your blood. My sister's big on gardening, so when she lost her dog, she made a garden for him. I knocked on her door. She didn't know that I knew, and of course I played nice. I moved on to what she did with my fiancé, and I slightly damaged her garden. I honestly just crushed a couple of flowers. Am I sorry? No. Her excuse sent me over the edge. It just happened, isn't a reason. Sleeping with my fiancé just happened like that, I guess. I told her I didn't want her speaking to me anymore, and that I also didn't want our mom to speak to me. My fiancé won't say a word since I threatened to call the police if he ever come near me again. Yeah, I made my sister cry and scream at me, but I genuinely feel like I should be the one crying. She knew how important getting married was to me, and now I can't experience that. Pair that with the fact that I had to hear this from my dad, not my bum excuse of a sister or fiancé. Heck, even my own mother didn't say a word to me. It's like she lets my sister run her. F you, Tia. F you, Logan. If they ever see this, I'd be absolutely delighted. Edit. Since many people keep bringing this up, I'm upset that I lost a relationship I've always put 100% into. I was excited to get married, of course, but then this news came out. It really hurt me. I didn't want to believe it at first. I almost thought my dad was pulling my leg. Later, it turned out to be true. I swear, I have trust issues now. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Cut them off. Your sister has no respect or love for you. In fact, is probably jealous. I would move away and have nothing more to do with them. Family that swirl around in this swill are really dysfunctional. I would be gone. Family are some of the worst betrayers of people, do the most damage, so I would go no contact with all of them. This is one of those rare instances where it is appropriate to blame the affair partner just as much as well, like your own sister. Damn, I'm so sorry, girl, but you can still get married and do all the things you want. Just not with this horribly fake person that was in your life. Take your time to grieve. This was an assault on all ends of your trust, but consider it time saved for the right people later on. I'm curious on the details. Was it a one-time thing or did they care for each other? And as they say, if he cheats with her, then he'll cheat on her. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's searching for a new mistress now, since OP's sister doesn't sound interesting now and she's created a spot for a new mistress to take over. Your dad's a hero. Imagine living with a guy who had slept with your sister and you finding this out later, which you obviously would have at some point in life. The whole marriage would have been a lie. Your dad's a savior. Value him. I also wouldn't want to be married to my spouse anymore if they were fine with cheating. If this was me, I would be making a public Facebook post, so everyone knows why my wedding got called off. I can't believe your own mother would do this. The woman who brought you into this world, betraying you by helping your sister keep the secret is despicable. Thank God you have your father. I'd be outing my sister, ex, mom, all of them, and then turn off post notification and move on like nothing ever happened. Edit 2. Thanks again for all the suggestions, y'all. It's helping me feel more confident in exposing them. I'm just a bundle of nerves right now because I know crap's gonna hit the fan again. When I do so, I'll try my best to come up with an update. I mean, it's the least y'all deserve. Last edit. When I say I decided to hurt her, it's because I kinda ruined something so meaningful to her. I feel like for most people, besides on here, that would be a bit far. That's just how I feel though. I understand it's not what you guys wanted, lol. Clearly worked a bit though, since she thought I was so damn psychotic for that. Like I said, I don't feel sorry about hurting her that way. Now for the first update. Hey everyone, thanks again for the comments and support. I found out quite a bit. To start off, I did expose her and my ex in my story. I unblocked them both to tag them. Shout out to one of the commenters who wrote down what I should say. I saved it and wrote it, but added some other words of my own. My ex actually blocked me after he saw my story. I sent my Reddit post to my sister after. At the time she didn't see, but I got a call from my ex's mom. She was furious about everything, but she asked me how I was holding up and if I've heard the news. My heart sank a little because I honestly couldn't bear to hear any more bad news. I asked her what she was talking about. She said, "So you haven't?" I said no and asked her to tell me. My sister's pregnant. Apparently he told her in an attempt to make her chill out on my sister. I didn't want to hear any more, so I told her I needed to hang up the phone. Thankfully, she accepted because I literally burst into tears 2 seconds later. After 5 minutes of crying, my sister responded to my story and texted with a Reddit post link. She was texting me in all caps, begging me to take it down. If I wasn't so upset, I would have laughed a little, but I just sat there watching her blow up my phone. I got even angrier when she said, "I'm coming over and I'm telling mom that you're spreading my business online. All right, you big baby." Still never responded though. I felt frozen. 30 minutes later, she's trying to break my door down. So I opened it in a fit of rage and I started screaming all kinds of abuse at her. She kept screaming at me to take it down, and I told her that's gonna stay up for as long as I wanted to. She kept telling me she didn't deserve online hate. And she even tried telling me that she's always been there for me through everything, and that she would have forgiven me if it was the other way around. She also said it's not my fault he was tired of you, and that's when I told her that I hope she ends up like her dog, and that she deserves every bit of hate she's getting for ruining my relationship. I even apologized for not ruining her entire garden and her stupid face at first. I know I'm wrong for saying this, but the entire time she was playing the victim. She called me evil and told me to rot in hell. Kept saying I was punishing her over a mistake. I said, "You have no idea what you've put me through, and I know you would have done the same thing if you were the victim." She kept crying and insulting me because all she's ever done was support me through everything, and I had the nerve to hurt her and allow strangers to bash her on the internet. I told her she deserved it, and I don't want her talking to me ever again, and if she comes near me, I'm calling the police. She kept saying I was being extremely unfair and that she said she was sorry in her texts, but I wasn't having it. I told her to tell mom I'm not talking to her again either. She asked me if I was really going to cut her off like that, and I just wished her good luck with her unwanted child and told her to go home. That was the last time she walked off my porch. Anyway, I had to clean up my favorite vase because she smashed it, but it doesn't even matter. At least they're out of my life. However, it's weird how sad I feel now. It's for my own good, but damn, I'll never experience the bond we had again. On the bright side, seems like I've dodged 2 bullets. Thanks again though, everyone. Maybe I do need therapy. I hope your sister's scummy story gets picked up by those Instagrams and TikToks and YouTubes that read off Reddit posts in a robot voice. I hope she can't escape hearing about it. And when there's a lull, I hope someone else in her life forwards one and says, "Oh my god, is this you?" I hope her messy business is spread all over the place in your friend group/family, because it's the least she deserves. Stay strong, OP. This will pass for you, and you'll be better and stronger because of it. Your sister, on the other hand, good freaking riddance. Reminds me of a quote from the book Bird by Bird. You own everything that happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better. Classic narcissist move to try and shift the blame to you and manipulate you like you're not the victim here. Sorry, but your sister is a selfish witch. Do not take it down. Let the world know who she really is. Punishing her over a mistake? Seriously, like come on. She pretty much uprooted your life and destroyed relationships along the way. She knew what she was doing before she cheated and after. She likely felt guilty about it, but it doesn't change the fact that she did it. She needs to deal with the consequences. If she even wanted to start rebuilding a relationship with you, clearly your sister is more focused on her own image than actually feeling sorry. I doubt she felt guilty. That's why she hasn't shown any remorse or apologized. Just expected OP to rug sweep. Then went so far as to say, "It's not my fault Logan was tired of you." Her sister is a disgusting piece of work. I'll be laughing my butt off if we get another update saying OP's ex is cheating on his sister. Now for the last update. I've officially decided to go low contact with my dad today. Surprisingly, he wasn't that upset about it. However, he's still on team take down the posts, and that's why I made my decision. My mom wants nothing to do with me because if I wasn't going to respect the family, there's no point in trying to get to you. Wow, it's almost like that's what I wanted. My cousin and my ex's sister have been supporting me. Apparently, my sister has had meltdown after meltdown because more people are slowly finding out about the affair, not only in person but on the internet. She actually got into it with my cousin online, and according to my cousin, my sister keeps asking her to tell me to take down the posts because she's sorry and she felt pressured into doing what she did. Last, I even heard about my ex from his sister. She told me that they did speak, and although he's not ready for a child, he doesn't feel comfortable leaving my pregnant sister on her own. He also wants me to stop what I'm doing, but oh well, they're made for each other. Anyway, I've surprisingly been feeling a bit better thanks to my cousin and my new sister, as I like to call my ex's sister now. Haha. I've actually gotten some good sleep. Still considering therapy too. A very tiny part of me feels pretty bad for exposing my sister and ex, but I'll always miss the relationship I've had with them, even despite my last encounter with my sister, but they've hurt me and it's what they deserve. If they're not taking it well, that's their problem. Thanks everyone once again. Leave your posts up. Sister deserves to be called out and her friends need to know she may sleep with her boyfriends. Speaking of her friends, I actually have no idea what they think about this, but I can assume they found out, of course. My sister is not taking this well, so I'm assuming they're pestering her with questions too. Not taking this well? She isn't the victim here. Keep those posts up. This right here. She is not the victim. And with the truth out there, she finds it hard to play the victim. People like this need to be put on blast, because the reality is they probably will never change. It's weird how your mom is scolding you about respecting your family, but was totally fine with your sister sleeping with your fiancé. These people will do anything to keep the peace, even if it means neglecting and enabling nonsense like this. Pretty stupid, honestly. Last story. My girlfriend's little sister has a crush on me and everyone but me thinks it's cute. I'm so tired of this. I want to break up with my girlfriend. Me and my girlfriend are in our early 20s and she has a 14-year-old sister who has a crush on me. She's always trying to find a way to help me out, talk to me, tries to be alone with me, wears her better clothes around me, and has been getting into makeup trying to copy her sister's look. I don't think it's cute the way everyone else does. They laugh and humor her and tease her about her crush on me by saying things like, "I saw your sister's boyfriend today," or "Is he your boyfriend?" It's so gross and uncomfortable. The recent times I've tried getting alone time with my girlfriend at her house were interrupted by her sister pounding on her door asking us what we're doing. It just blows my mind how no one thinks that it's weird, and they basically encouraged her. She's gotten a slap on the wrist once for trying to unlock her sister's door while we were in there together. But that's it. They all think it's just a funny little crush that'll go away. My girlfriend especially thinks it's so funny because she knows I would never go for a child. No freaking I wouldn't. It doesn't bother her because she's 14. I worry that one day her sister will start spinning fantasies about things we did. I'm in my 20s for Pete's sake. I can't have a lie ruining my life. I've talked to my girlfriend about her sister's behavior and how serious I am multiple times, but she always blows me off. I really love my girlfriend, and we've been together for 2 years now, but I want to call it quits. I really wanted to marry her someday too. No one is taking me seriously, and the last thing I ever need is a child saying I came onto her or something like that. I don't even visit the way I used to anymore, just to avoid a freaking 14-year-old. That's depressing. My girlfriend doesn't like to come over to my apartment because I have roommates and her house is way nicer. But I won't go over there anymore because of her sister. Just had to vent. Thanks. Now for the comments. Ask your girlfriend if she'd think it was so funny if her sister was 18. I freaking have. And you know what she says? But she isn't. Crazy. It almost like she doesn't see the danger in it because she's a minor and knows that I would never touch a minor. That's not the point. The point is that minor can lie. And I'm not a victim blamer. I'd believe the child too. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. You believe the victim. She also keeps saying how nothing bad will happen because she knows her sister. My biggest fear is that her sister will get mad one day, or she's feeling a little extra delusional and then lies. All it takes is one little text message to her friend or one little accusation, and I'm done for. Writing comment after comment makes me feel like a freaking idiot for dancing around this situation for so long. I'm going to talk to my girlfriend seriously one last time, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I really hope that it somehow works out. I don't know what my future will look like if it works, but I know that her sister isn't in it. Not to be mean, but your girlfriend sounds kinda dumb. You gotta be point blank with her and tell her this nonsense needs to stop. And it has the risk of ruining your life if her little sister decides to make up a lie. 14-year-olds are 100% capable of doing this. In the meantime, protect yourself and lay down some solid boundaries. Refuse to go to her house and be around her sister until it stops. If your girlfriend is unwilling to do anything about it, I'd be questioning whether there's a possibility of a more serious and committed relationship in the future. It would make me question if she's capable of taking your concerns and emotions into consideration in the future. This isn't someone I would want to have as a partner. Exactly. Her sister is acting on her feelings of having a crush despite it being her own sister's boyfriend. She's not a toddler or a young kid. 14 is old enough to know that's not okay. I think you're right. All it would take is one lie from that girl to change your life. True story right here. Happened to a friend of mine in high school. I believe him because he genuinely never, that I saw, encouraged or expressed any interest, and actively went out of his way to gently turn her down and not be in a compromising situation. She got mad, said something happened. He's on a list now. Stuff like this breaks my heart, and I don't even know what else could have happened. I don't want it to be me. It doesn't even matter if they confess that they lied either, because the damage would already have been done. If a victim comes forward, I would believe them, just like anyone else should. It really messes everything up when victims aren't actually victims. It takes away from real victims and unnecessarily ruins lives. It's a lose-lose all around. I feel so freaking bad for him. Update. Am I the a-hole for losing it and calling my father a weak, pathetic man in front of his family? Original post. My father has always been against any confrontation or arguments. He is extremely passive, refuses to stand up for himself, and avoids any conflict. If someone isn't paying attention while walking and bumps into him, he insists it's his own fault. If his employer would mess up his salary, he wouldn't bother fixing it. If a mechanic didn't properly repair his car, he would just accept it as it is. This unfortunately resulted in a tumultuous childhood with my insanely narcissistic mother. She controlled his every move. She got him to quit his job and be a locked-in stay-at-home dad. She had him do every chore. She insulted him at every step. She cheated on him relentlessly and even brought affair partners into our home. She enjoyed making his life miserable every day, and he never questioned it. My extended family, God bless them, were there for me so many times, as much as they could be. They tried for years to make my father leave, but he never budged. When she would direct her anger onto me in the form of screaming, insulting, or general demeaning, my father never once fought the guts to stand up for me or support me. When I was a kid, if I cried to Dad about something Mom did or said to me, he would sweep it under the rug, or just insist I forget about it. Heck, he would even try and justify it. As I grew older, it really set in for me how messed up this was. My mother gladly kicked me out of the house when I was 18, and my father just sat there and looked sullen. Didn't say a damn thing. I joined the Air Force almost immediately and got stationed on the other side of the country. The dynamic was awful, and I could have easily gone down the incel route, if not for therapy and the amazing people I met along the way. It took years for me to get in a better mental space. I was filled with hatred. My mother left my father 2 years after I got stationed and utterly destroyed my father in a divorce. She was killed a year later in a DUI with one of her affair partners. I took a lot of joy in hearing that it took her hours to die, and that's when I really knew I needed help to process things. I'm almost 30 now, have a girlfriend who is perhaps the best thing to ever happen in my life, and fully understands the situation with my family. I have learned to not allow myself to be consumed with anger and resentment by my past, or so I thought, you'll see, and instead put that energy to my future. I've been extraordinarily low contact / near no contact with my father since I left. As much as I try, I cannot make that connection with him. I recently went to a family reunion and brought my girlfriend with me. My father was there as it was his side of the family. They have many issues with him, but he is family, so whatever, I guess. I made sure to avoid him. I was chatting with my uncles when I heard my father talk in the background. He was discussing how a coworker of his was going through a divorce as he discovered his wife was having an affair and was positioned to have a very favorable divorce on his side. My father remarked how his coworker should work instead to forgive his wife, and by his own words, set a good example for unity and forgiveness, and how he believed he set a great example for me in that extent. I swear, it was like a switch went off in my head, and I was mentally back to being the rage-filled 18-year-old. All these years, and he never learned a damn thing. I turned to him and asked if he was freaking serious. He looked at me and started to stutter. I know the next minute was pure word vomit, and I can't relay it perfectly, but to sum it up, I shouted how he was a pathetic father, a pathetic man. His family all know he's a disgrace of a human being. Who would rather his son be treated like garbage than defend him because he's a freaking coward? No one would ever see him as an example to live by. His wife would rather sleep with half the neighborhood than even touch him. And he should never, ever believe anyone respects him. I began to derail and ramble between my shouting, and my girlfriend quickly took me out and drove me home. It was insane just how quickly being away from him made me feel better. She just held me when we got back and told me it's okay. Again, best thing to ever happen to me. I was ashamed of how I lost it, and I'm now going through my therapy. That's a given. However, I'm glad I finally unloaded what always needed to be said onto him. Extended family's pretty mixed with reactions. His brothers / my uncle said it was time for him to hear it from me. My grandparents are mad I did that in front of the entire extended family, with some saying I should have done that behind closed doors instead of everyone. Now for the top comments before reading the update. All I can say, based on your post and this interaction, is your anger is deeply misguided, and you're failing to recognize the truly horrifying thing. You're behaving like the mother you actually should hate. Oh, trust me, I fully hate her as well. But she's gone, and there is no use in holding a grudge against a dead person. I'd hoped, though, after his son making him an outsider in his life, his family openly joking face-to-face about his failings as a father, and his ex-wife draining him for everything he had and making him start over in a one-bedroom apartment, his friends slowly leaving his life one at a time out of embarrassment, that he would maybe have at least one moment to reflect, and maybe consider he should have done things differently. It sounds like you finally got to express the pent-up feelings you've carried for so long. While the outburst wasn't ideal, it seems like it was a necessary step towards healing. It's good you're resuming therapy to process this further. Yeah, afterwards it hit me that although it was very cathartic, it definitely wasn't the most appropriate way to handle it, lol. Don't let this concern you too much. You were greatly harmed as a child. While you are an adult, the harm people receive as a child becomes a core part of them, in personality, the way the brain is wired, and even in the physical body. Immune response. Your father's neglect to protect you from abuse came from his passivity. Neglect is abuse. Him allowing another to abuse you while present, he was an active participant. Now, him telling others they should be more like himself, modeling his passivity as a virtue, should create a visceral action in you. This is a critical moment in your healing. An adult finally stood up for the abused child. Someone finally stepped in and said this is not okay. You just happen to be both the abused child and the active adult who stepped up to advocate for the child. Any person who was an adult at a time who could have stepped up and stopped the harm that both your parents put you through don't get to say anything about the way you're handling it now. They had an opportunity to step in and step up. They failed. Live a wonderful life. Be good to yourself. Life can be filled with so much joy and wonder. I hope you can feel the fullness of healing. Now for the update days later. Thanks for the advice and recommendations, even amongst some of the YTAs. However, some of them needed to be addressed because they were either hilarious or cringeworthy. 1. Some of them were very angry and they kind of confused me at first, until I saw their comments further down or saw their profile and saw rants about double standards or complete non-sequitur ramblings about women. So yeah, not helpful advice, and they were great dark reflections about how I could have turned out if not for the support in my life. 2. Some attempted to portray my dad as a humble, kind, caring, sensitive old man who I'm just being a big bully to. This was a very good insight into how enablers of abuse get away with so much in today's world because so many people forget how they are part of the abuse themselves. 3. Some were attempting to mentally dissect me or have a gotcha moment with me to pull apart my story. That was generally asinine, and I had to step away from those before they asked for my cranial measurements or something. So it was pretty much immediately when I was up the next morning that I realized I needed to resolve the events of last night. I first spoke to my girlfriend and gave a sincere apology for having her see me like that. She reassured me that nothing was wrong. She'd known me for years and has always known me to be level-headed and understands why I kinda snapped. She herself has a history of dealing with narcissistic family, so she absolutely understands the dynamic. She only really told me that it would be best to work on spending time around my extended family, since my father will always be there. I told her don't worry, I'm immediately going to talk to them afterwards to figure that out. So that part's fine. Looked like kind of an ass in front of her, but I'm making sure that doesn't happen again. I also informed her my intentions to resume my therapy just to keep myself steady, which she was happy to hear. I called my grandparents and sincerely apologized as well for putting such a sore dent into their family reunion. That it wasn't appropriate, and while I still feel it felt good to say that to him, it should have been in private and not in front of everyone. I also told them that going forward, as much as I love spending time with them, since the family always hangs out in one group that my father will always be in, for now until I can handle being around him, I need to distance myself occasionally, until I feel comfortable interacting. I told them that I am nor would I ever be establishing an ultimatum or demands of them, and that either way I need to step back. I guess during my apology and explanation, I was kind of just going on a tangent, because my grandfather interrupted me to calm down. He told me that after I left, people kind of separated or slowly started leaving, and they eventually were able to talk to my father one-on-one. I guess seeing me have such a freak out resulted in my grandmother having a mini freak out of her own, when she started talking to my father, resulting in her kicking him out. While I have a great relationship with both, my grandmother has always been extra protective of me, so seeing me that way must have set off a fire in her. My grandfather then said that it has become a bit of an open family secret. My father is failing. His brothers taunt him about it and generally don't have a great relationship with him, and for my grandparents it's always just an easy. But seeing me the other day and how it still affects me so much has really sunk in for a lot of people that it was really bad. They began to try and say sorry if they didn't do enough, which I very adamantly retorted that they did more than what anyone could have expected. It was very emotional for a minute, but culminated in them telling me that they have decided to distance themselves from my father for the time being, and have given him the ultimatum that unless he has a deep introspective and regularly goes to therapy, that distance may become permanent. My extended family, I've been told, are going to try and reach out or call or whatever, but I asked them if they could relay to them that it's not necessary, and that I'm fine, and I'm sorry for them as well for ruining the day, which again, they told me I shouldn't apologize for being hurt. Since then, extended family have sent some messages, with the general consensus that it's okay, with some older members complaining about my lack of respect towards my father. And finally, I texted my father hoping to meet at a local coffee shop and have a final talk. I met him and he didn't look good. I think his parents staring into him finally got the message through. I had so many things I could have said, but I instead asked him first thing if the coworker he gave the advice to took it well. He just said that neither him nor several coworkers interact with him anymore. I asked him if he truly 100% believes that every single thing he did for me as a child was for my benefit. He didn't really say anything. I then finally asked if he has any regrets for how I was treated as a child, and if he thinks he ever did anything wrong. He looked utterly defeated and just mumbled that he could have done more. I could have poked and prodded and could have gone on another rant, but instead I told him this should be goodbye, and I hope he gets the help he needs. I think finally unloading my frustrations was what I needed to finally be able to move on and find peace. I absolutely need to keep on track for therapy and admit that a public whining moment isn't okay, but I should be fine. Even if Opie doesn't hate his father, he surely doesn't respect him, and it's hard to maintain any kind of relationship like that. The fact that not even his son respects him has to be one hell of a wake-up call. It's likely that the dad was telling himself that despite everything he went through, the mother's abuse, he's still a good person, and he still did the right thing by not divorcing her. He's convinced himself that because it's too painful to acknowledge that his choices directly led to the abuse of a child for years. People lie to themselves about stuff all the time to keep themselves going, a kind of self-delusion. While this can help you cope in the short term, it handicaps you and prevents you from accepting your own mistakes and learning from them, becoming a better person and growing emotionally. You see this from cheaters all the time. It was a mistake. It's true love. I found a soulmate. We have a special connection. We were drunk and got carried away. My spouse was happier not knowing. I didn't want to hurt them, etc. Rather than admitting their own flaws, figuring out their own shortcomings that led them to do something so callous to someone they claim to care about, and then taking steps to rectify them. When his own son came out and emphatically said otherwise, other family members and his own mother kicked him out, it had to have made it much harder for him to keep up his delusion. Hopefully this means he'll stay away a bit, and Opie can continue to have a relationship with the rest of his relatives. I don't particularly care what becomes of the father, as with all people who abuse or enable the abuse of children. I just hope he stays away and doesn't do further harm. Opie's well-being is far more important. The father did abuse Opie. Neglect counts. And watching your kid be abused and doing nothing about it counts as neglect. This father sounds emotionally dead. This goes beyond cowardice or passivity. There is something deeply wrong with his emotional stability to be this empty. His white-knuckling through life, just allowing things to happen to him. I was thinking the same. What happened? Honestly, I hate conflicts and confrontations too, and I'm working on my wimpiness. But at least I get angry if only on the inside. I'm so curious about his thought process. Last story. Am I the a-hole for bringing up mother-in-law's finances at a family gathering after she constantly brings up mine? My mother-in-law is constantly making derogatory comments about our finances. We aren't rich, but we aren't broke either, and we have never asked her for money. She has chosen to give us some generous gifts, so really it is none of her business. Every time we are excited about something, new car, a trip, some home renovations, she has to chime in and ask if we can afford it, or if we are sure it is a good use of money. I've also heard through the grapevine that she thinks I'm spoiled. Not sure where she is getting that from. If she was just frugal herself, that might not bother me so much. But mother-in-law lives a very lavish life and doesn't say this nonsense to anyone. Her man-child boyfriend recently went out and bought a Ferrari because he was sad, and she didn't say anything about that. She is a CEO, and I know she makes bank, but still we are not poor. I'm sick of it, and I've asked my husband to talk to her. But truth be told, he is kind of a wuss. We had a family gathering recently, and my mother-in-law pursed her lips when she found out I had upgraded my wedding band, and made a snide comment that it wasn't even 10 years, and implied it was a waste of money. I looked right at her and began asking questions. How much do you have in your bank account? Who pays your bills? Are you splitting the money equal in your will? Because we all know you like your daughter more. What did that bag cost? Mother-in-law was horrified and said I'm tacky for talking about money. I clapped back that she has been talking about my money for years and clearly doesn't like it when the shoe is on the other foot. She rolled her eyes and stormed off. My husband was mortified and said I really went too far and embarrassed him in front of his family. Now for the comments. Lol, I think it was hilarious. Since your husband is mama's boy, somebody needs to be aggressive. Now you're mortified? She's been embarrassing me for years in front of family, and you've done nothing. Shut her down or get ready for more of this. Not a-hole. But really, I hope you're prepared to deal with this for life, because it sounds like your husband is his mother's emotional surrogate, who would still be with her if it weren't for you, and your husband hands his balls to her when she's around. Personally, I prefer to be the only woman with access to my husband's balls, but you do you. They aren't even that close. He's just terrified of her. To be fair, most people are. But she isn't one of those boy moms. Why is he terrified of his mom? Regardless, tell him that the only way for him to no longer be terrified of her is to stand up to her. She's probably waiting for him to do that anyway. It's very freeing. Everyone's terrified of her. She's ruthless and cutthroat in business and doesn't know how to turn it off when she gets home. He grew up watching everyone in the family buckle to her demands, mostly because they wanted her to pay for stuff. It's sad he doesn't get she doesn't respect any of them because they let her act this way. Exactly. Your husband and you don't sound like you need her money. So if your husband wants her respect, he has to stop cowering before her. You did it, so he can too. Besides, she's a huge hypocrite who seems to have major look-at-me syndrome. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's friends the real reason we broke up? I'm 26 male, recently broke up with my girlfriend Lisa, 25 female, after being together for 3 years. The reason? I caught her cheating on me. A couple of weeks ago, I came home early from a work trip to surprise her, only to find another guy's jacket on the couch. When I asked her about it, she admitted she'd been seeing him for months. Obviously, I ended things immediately. She apologized but tried to downplay it, saying it didn't mean anything, and even asked if we could stay friends. I told her there was no chance. After the breakup, Lisa told all our mutual friends that we drifted apart and made it seem like the breakup was mutual. She even hinted that I was the one who grew distant. I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to stir up drama. But last weekend at the mutual friends party, one of her friends came up to me and asked why I broke Lisa's heart. That was my breaking point. I calmly told her friend the truth, that Lisa cheated on me and that's why we broke up. Now Lisa's furious with me, saying I'm ruining her reputation and that I had no right to tell people about her personal life. Some of our mutual friends agree with her and say I should have kept the details private. Others think she brought this on herself by lying. Am I the a-hole for telling the truth when asked? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She made it an issue when she decided to go begging for sympathy and telling her friends that you broke her heart. You were willing to go with drifted apart, but she crossed the line, and you were fine telling the truth. Exactly this. She should have shut up instead of playing up the breakup and making a sob story. Yes, shut up should be the final answer for most of the threads here. Not the a-hole. If she was worried about her reputation, then she shouldn't have been a cheater. She also had no right to tell people lies about what happened, so it's not your fault you had to set them straight. It's on her that you had to tell people about her personal life. And I will never understand why people think it didn't mean anything will help the situation. To me, that's even worse. Like, oh, you didn't even have a personal connection with this person, but chose to cheat anyway? You literally threw our relationship away for someone who didn't mean anything? Don't be rude. Whores have a legitimate profession, even though people get skeevy about it. She's just a cheater. Fair point, lol. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my ex-wife about our son's talent show and then telling her it's not my fault she's screwing up her relationship with our kids? My ex-wife, 40 female, and I, 40 male, have 2 children together, Amy, 12 female, and Noah, 11 male. We used to be civil, even though our breakup and divorce could be described as messy. It was for the best. We got along better than a lot of divorced parents have known. We always shared custody of our children, and my ex-wife had another child soon after our marriage ended. My ex-wife remarried about 3 years after our divorce, and she and her husband have 3 children together. So, my ex has 6 children, and I understand this can make it hard to give all the kids individual time. But our kids have increasingly felt like they matter less than their half-siblings. They've brought up the fact that their half-siblings get one-on-one time with her, not just when they're with me. Their half-siblings can ask for time with just their mom or just their dad. However, When Amy and Noah ask for time with just their mom, they're told she doesn't have time or that they would want to spend time with everyone because they're part of a big family and aren't always there. There's also been tension when our kids introduce me and my ex as their parents and refer to my ex's husband as their stepdad. They also call their half-siblings just that, half-siblings. My ex doesn't like it. She said her third child doesn't say it, but that child doesn't have a relationship with her biological dad. Our kids pointed out that this makes it different for her. My ex told them there should be no halves or steps because they're all family. She also uses the fact that Amy and Noah live with me 50% of the time as a reason for them not to use those terms and not to expect time alone with her. However, she and her other kids openly talk about outings where she takes one child to the arcade or trampoline park when Amy and Noah aren't there. For example, Amy had a Mother's Day event at her music class and asked her mom to come. Her mom brought the other girls along to make it a girls' day. Another time, Amy wanted her mom to drive her to a show she was performing in, but her mom said it should be a family outing. Amy then asked if I could take the day off work to take her. It was my parenting time, but since I was working and Amy wanted her mom, I said it was fine if she asked her. Amy's mom wasn't happy about it, but Amy said she didn't want it to be a family thing. Similarly, Noah invited his mom to take part in his cooking classes, but she always wants to bring her husband or some of the other kids. He also wanted to celebrate with her over a milkshake after getting a good grade on a test, despite his school messing up by not providing his dyslexia aid. She insisted it couldn't be one-on-one. There are many examples like this. We're now at the point where the kids would love to live with me more, but they have to be at least 16 for a judge to consider their wishes. Last week, Noah had a talent show during my parenting time. Both of us are notified of school events, but Noah chose not to tell his mom or invite her. She found out about it after he won, and it was posted on social media. She called to complain and upset Noah so much that I had to step in. She told me I should have informed her, and I said I didn't have to. We both receive notifications, and it's on each of us to stay updated. She accused me of coming between her and the kids, and I told her it wasn't my fault she was damaging her relationship with them by denying them one-on-one time. She said it wasn't fair, and that it's easier for me because I only have Amy and Noah. I pointed out that she makes time for her other kids, even finding babysitters or having her husband watch the kids, but she can't be bothered to do the same for Amy and Noah. She called me an ass and accused me of interfering in her relationship with them. Am I the a-hole? No, not the a-hole. She has made efforts herself to destroy her relationship with her kids without your help. She's doing this to herself and then blaming you? Not acceptable. You've done nothing wrong. Her inability to be available to her children and give them the attention and care they need is 100% her own doing. Hopefully this is a wake-up call for her, but it won't be. When the kids move in with you full-time, I'm sure he'll tell everyone it's your fault. She wants to be a victim and take no responsibility for her actions. Don't let her. Exactly. The fact that she's upset with him instead of reflecting on why her kids are pulling away speaks volumes. Opie is not sabotaging their relationship, she is. If she genuinely wants to repair things, she needs to prioritize Amy and Noah instead of making excuses or blaming Opie. Not the a-hole. Props to you for being there for your children, mate. One word of advice, nothing will come out of arguing with her. You should have just told her that you both get notified by the school and that's how you knew. Then ask if she isn't following notifications about the kids, as they could be extremely important. You two broke up. It's not your job to remind her of events. Luckily for you, the kids are on your side anyway. It's not your duty to make sure she's in the loop. If she's not following up, that's on her. You're already doing more than enough for your kids. Next story. Am I the a-hole for becoming a stay-at-home parent when I did not support my ex being stay-at-home? I, 33 male, share a 3-year-old son with my ex, 29 female. We broke up before our son was born. One of the reasons we broke up was her insistence on being a stay-at-home parent until our child reached school age, at least. Obviously, she needed to stay home for the months after the birth to recover. But once she had recovered, I did not support her continuing not to work. I did not want a relationship where she was financially dependent on me. We also disagreed on concepts like gender roles within the family. We had both been rather progressive, but after getting pregnant, she started expounding a lot more traditional views. In any case, our son was born and we co-parent. We have 50-50 custody, but I make more than my ex, so I pay health insurance, child care, and child support. Tragically, a year after my son was born, my mother was killed in an accident involving a semi-truck. My twin brother, who is a family law/divorce attorney, had one of his law school classmates look into the accident. It turned out that the semi-driver was over the federally allowed hours to drive. As you can imagine, this really affected my perspective on things. We ended up receiving a substantial settlement. I decided to take a step back from my career. I'm an accountant, and I signed a freelance contract with my firm that gives me the flexibility to spend as much time with my son as I want. I still pay for insurance, childcare, and child support. Note, the settlement has no impact on my child support. Trust me, I have had the best family law firm in the state look into it. On my time, I usually keep my son with me, and we spend a day together going to the park, museums, library, etc. My ex has expressed her frustrations at my hypocrisy. She says I am now a stay-at-home parent, but I wouldn't let her be one. I told her the situations are different because I am not financially dependent on anyone. That was my chief concern with her being a stay-at-home parent. This is causing issues in our co-parenting relationship. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You are not a stay-at-home parent. You are employed on a flexible contract that allows you to be fully present with your son during your custody time. What's the issue here? Also, she is welcome to establish the same setup. For example, she could flex her workload to the times she doesn't have physical custody. That is not your issue to solve. Not the a-hole. I can definitely understand her frustration and jealousy. You're living the life she wanted, being able to stay home though you're still working. But that doesn't make you an a-hole. You're doing what's best for you and your child. She shouldn't be taking her frustration out on you. While I get it, it's not fair to you, and it's a completely different situation. You didn't want another dependent, which is understandable. She's definitely the a-hole here, not the a-hole. Disagree. OP is still working and has to deal with the premature loss of his mother in tragic circumstances. His ex just wanted to not work. She's twisting the narrative to fit her sour grapes. There's no way you don't see why your ex is upset. You're living the parenting dream she wanted. Yeah, he is not the a-hole, but the way he talks about stay-at-home parents is kind of dismissive, especially as she just wanted to stay at home until the kid was in school and they seemingly had the money. Low-key getting the vibe he implied she was a mooch or something, hence her anger. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not selling my car even though my fiancé refuses to sit in the front seat because my ex sat there? Hi everyone, I'm 27 male engaged to my fiancé 26 female. And while we're preparing for our wedding, something recently came up that's left me confused and conflicted. I want to know if I'm in the wrong here or if her reaction is unreasonable. Here's the issue. My fiancé refuses to sit in the front seat of my car because my ex used to sit there. She says it makes her uncomfortable and feels like she's taking what someone else's. Instead, she insists on sitting in the back seat whenever we go somewhere, which honestly feels strange to me, like I'm her chauffeur. I offered to sell the car if it truly bothers her, but she told me not to because it would feel like she's forcing me to do something. However, she still won't sit in the front seat and avoids interacting with anything related to my past relationships. This is part of a bigger pattern. She's mentioned multiple times that she doesn't want to do things I've done with my ex, like cuddling on a couch during a movie or visiting places I've been to before. I've tried to be understanding of her feelings, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being held responsible for my past, which I can't change. It's also confusing because she keeps in touch with her own ex, occasionally texting or calling him, which I have no issue with as I trust her. Whenever these situations come up, she tends to withdraw emotionally, avoiding physical affection, not saying goodnight, or being distant. While I love her and want to work through this, I'm starting to feel like I'm walking on eggshells around her emotions, especially when they tied to things I can't control, like my past. She sounds emotionally immature. Honestly, I would hold off on marrying her until she has some serious therapy sessions under her belt, not the a-hole. This is what I came to say as well. She sounds like she needs a whole lot of therapy to sort out her relational problems, insecurities, double standards, and obsession with your ex. Good luck. Not the a-hole. This is controlling behavior. Stop playing her games. If she won't sit next to you in the front of the car, then don't drive her anymore. Ultimately, this relationship isn't going to work out. It would be messier and more expensive to get a divorce than to choose not to marry this woman in the first place. Even if you don't want to end a relationship, you should put wedding plans on hold and get couples counseling. Thank you so much for your advice. I'm seriously considering calling off the wedding. When I spoke to her about it earlier today in another car, not the one my ex sat in, she dismissed my concerns, removed her seatbelt, and started screaming at me during the argument, saying it's normal. She doesn't contribute to practical matters like wedding or honeymoon planning, and instead compares me to her dad, expecting me to take care of everything. She minimizes her toxic behaviors, blames PMS, and rarely apologizes. So yeah, listing all these out has really helped. Surely you want to marry a best friend and partner, not an enemy. You're set up for disaster and your life will probably become a nightmare. Leave while you can. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my stepfather walk me down the aisle? Backstory. My father died when I was 12 and my older brother was 17. He was practically a boy when my mother went into a depression that affected her for years. My brother stepped in and took care of us. He helped out around the house and helped me with school while my mother was getting treatment. He basically became my father figure. I didn't want him to grow up so fast, but I was just a little girl who had just been orphaned. There wasn't much I could do. Time skip. Now I'm 26 and my brother is 31. My mother got better years later and met a guy named Adam who seems really nice, but he can't have children biologically. That's why his wife separated from him years ago. The problem is, I'm getting married in 2 months, and my stepfather insists on walking me down the aisle because it would be the only chance he has to do something like that. However, I really want my brother to walk me down the aisle because no one deserves this more than him. Now half of my family is on my side, and the other half says I should go with my stepfather because my brother would look aesthetically weird next to me since we're close in age. What do? Tell everyone to go F themselves? Lose the chance to have my brother walk me down the aisle? I don't know how to talk to my mother because she isn't very mentally stable anymore. Possible relevant info. Mom 55, stepdad 55, and they've been together since I was 20. The weirdness of telling an adult you didn't even know as a kid that you want them to be a centerpiece of your wedding day is, weird. Really weird. Like you've only known this dude for a few years. That would be aesthetically weird. This is just some weird boundary stomping. I have taken your thoughts and feelings into consideration. I will be continuing with having my brother, who acted as a father to me in my formative years, walk me down the aisle. I look forward to enjoying the day and consider this conversation closed. And then shut it down. Anytime it's brought up, hand up, walk away, or don't respond to the text. Because this is just weird behavior. Not the a-hole. Honestly, it's just uncomfortable. I don't hate him or anything, but he can't idolize me as the daughter he couldn't have. That will just make things worse for everybody. I'm not trying to create drama. I'm sad. I just want everyone celebrating. I've put a lot of effort into my wedding, partly because I want to start fresh and build a family after everything that happened. But nobody besides my fiancé seems to understand that.